I want to start today with something that's kind of really good news. Some in the audience have grown increasingly frustrated with me that I have not really put out my sense of a way to radically deprogram right wing extremists and reactionaries from fact free Trumpism or ignorant political ideas, call it what you will. But the question that we've been kind of grappling with is okay, great. Tens of millions of people think Trump actually won. They would vote for him again. They believe untrue things about vaccines and climate change and the pandemic and all these different things. Great. We've identified a problem. How do we fix it? And at the individual level, we know, well, if you spend 3 hours, 6 hours with individuals, you can change some minds, but that's a really difficult thing to do at a sort of large scale. At the same time, when we think about something from above that radically and quickly changes views, we're often talking about significant authoritarianism, which as a progressive, I am against authoritarianism. So we don't really have an answer, but we now have a new study that is really inspiring and reassuring that it is possible, although what we can actually do as a result remains a question mark. So I'm talking about a incredible new study called The Manifold Effects of Partisan Media on Viewers' Beliefs and Attitudes, a field experiment with Fox News viewers. And there's a good write-up of what this did. And essentially what they did is they took Fox News viewers and they paid them to watch CNN for 30 days. And what they found was that after watching CNN for 30 days, the Fox News viewers became more skeptical about actual fake news, less likely to buy into fake news. And they also found changes in attitudes and policy preferences on COVID-19, on evaluations of then President Trump and of Republican candidates. And they wrote, and this is so not incredible, but it's a good thing, despite regular Fox News viewers being largely strong partisans, we found manifold effects of changing the slant of their media diets on their factual beliefs, attitudes, perceptions of issues' importance, and overall political views. They write, it found that Fox News gave viewers information about why the disease is not a serious threat, while CNN provided more information about the disease itself. This changed people's views. And it goes on and it says a lot more about what was done here. And this is important for so many different reasons. Now, obviously, if you think CNN is bad and not trustworthy on the facts, then you would see this as bad. You would say, wow, they believed the right things when they watched Fox News. And after 30 days of watching CNN, all of a sudden they believe all these liberal lies. Now, on these particular issues, we know during the pandemic when Trump was president, Fox News was giving a very skewed perspective of the pandemic and about other issues. So you can argue as to whether it's a good thing or not that they end up believing what they see on CNN rather than what they see on Fox. But that's not the issue I want to focus in on. The incredible good news is, if we put the right information in front of people, we can debate what the right information is. But if we put the right information, if we put accurate information in front of people, their beliefs are not as resistant to revision as we might have thought. And the other kind of scary aspect of this is it reminds us of the significant impact of one's media diet. It's incredible, or maybe not, maybe we say it's disturbing, what happens to people's beliefs when their media diet is restricted to what we might call extremist media or disinformation media. And to some extent, I will gladly concede that CNN profits off of and depends on fear-mongering, salacious stories, the kind of if it bleeds, it leads, the most extremist and hyperbolic interpretation of things with a different perspective than Fox News. But CNN is nowhere near as dishonest. We have to understand the kind of corporate fear leads framing. When I was on my flight to Las Vegas, in fact, there was a guy sitting across the aisle from me, and it's a long flight from the East Coast, 5.5, 6 hours. I watched him consume hours of Fox News. But then later in the flight, I looked over and MSNBC was on. And it was interesting because I was reading this study on the flight as I was watching this guy. And we might wrongly say, well, the MSNBC is going to have no impact on the guy. And what the study shows is that it does. Now, again, MSNBC is a not as dishonest, editorially liberal corporate media outlet. So for me, MSNBC is not exactly the solution to Fox News. And what this gets me back to is many people are kind of addicted to outrage, fear, anger, and validation of their existing views as well. Because the anger gives people sometimes what is like a temporary relief from what are maybe more difficult feelings to deal with, despair in their lives or a feeling of helplessness or whatever the case may be. Conspiracy content, as we've talked about before, is sometimes soothing to people because they would rather believe everything is planned and orchestrated rather than there are random bad events that we really can't predict specifically. And so my main takeaway from this study is the great news is people's beliefs aren't as resistant to revision as we thought if we put the right content in front of them. But the most important takeaway for me is I don't really want the population to simply be a CNN or MSNBC population rather than a Fox News population. Is it better? Of course. My preference would be what I try to do as a media diet, which is I'm getting the bulk of what I believe is going on about the world from news reporting agencies, those that have been shown to be more trustworthy in a number of different studies and evaluations. Associated Press, Reuters, many other examples from other countries, et cetera. I want that to be the bulk of what I'm understanding. And then after that, I want to fill in with the perspectives from some of these media outlets. I mean, COVID's a great example. I wasn't taking my beliefs about COVID from CNN, nor Fox, nor MSNBC, nor whoever. My view was, let me look at epidemiologists. Let me look at health agencies. Let me look at interesting researchers. Let me look at statistics people like Nassim Taleb, who would take the data and say, as a statistician, here is my interpretation. And then let's see how Fox and CNN and others are covering it. Russia, Ukraine is sort of another example. So this is a reassuring article. But for me, the solution isn't just sitting people in front of MSNBC or CNN. It's teaching them that MSNBC and CNN should really be like at the top of the information pyramid, more like the junk food. And I include my show in that as well. Notice that unlike, the reactionary right that says, I'm the only one telling you the truth, I should just be sort of a meeting place where after we've all hopefully done our homework, we come together to share opinions. So interesting study. We'll link to it. I encourage you to check it out. Do you know the fastest growing crime in the United States? For years, the rate of this crime has been surging. The crime is identity theft, and it happens way more often than you might think. It's happened to me. I've talked about this on the show before, and it can be really bad sometimes. You get a text that your email password has been changed, your bank calls about unusual activity, your PayPal account is getting drained, and it can happen very, very quickly. To keep my accounts protected, I use Aura, our sponsor. Aura is identity theft protection, fraud monitoring, and password management, all wrapped into one. Aura monitors the dark web for your information. They monitor your credit card. They monitor your bank accounts. My subscription to Aura gives me peace of mind, protects my devices. It protects all of my different accounts, and I can monitor everything in one place on the app. If I get attacked, Aura actually takes action to prevent and resolve the issues in real time. And Aura is letting my audience try it completely free for 14 days. Go to aura.com/Pacman. The link is down below.